to episode number 7 of the Introvert Biz Growth podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Sinacroce and thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking to Michelle Pizer, my first Australian guest. Michelle and I met a few months back when she invited me to be one of her guests at the Cracking the Dream Team Code Summit, where I shared with the audience how to use LinkedIn to hire your dream team. I'm excited to have her on the other side of the microphone today. Leaders hire Dr. Michelle Pizer because they know that business is personal. It's about relationships and emotions, and she helps you use them to your advantage. Michelle's practice grew out of a career she started at 14, working in the rag trade on the factory floor. She was quickly promoted to sewing seams. It was too soon. She found it tedious and shamefully offended her co-workers by asking them how they could stand such a boring job. Fired after only half a day, she learned early on about dignity and respect in the workplace, and that there is an art to being bossy. From this valuable life lesson, Michelle was inspired to work with people to make sure that their work lives and upward transitions are without unhappiness, wears, and tears. Michelle is an executive coach and an organizational and counseling psychologist. She's the owner and founder of www.michellepizer.com.au. She is a published author and received her PhD from RMIT University, winning a number of awards for her work. Michelle has been featured in Fairfax Media, The Age, Sydney Morning Herald, Executive Style, and Channel 9. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm really good, Sarah. How about you?
I'm good too. Thank you. Apologies for the time zone difference. It's always confusing, and I tried to do my best, but somehow we just didn't make it this time.
Well, as you know, it worked out really well. I got to have a little rest because I've had quite a social day, and it was actually quite exhausting for me. So as an introvert, I really needed the downtime, and I so appreciated it.
Excellent.
Actually, it worked out well.
Worked out well for both of us. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit more, or something that the introverted audience can relate to, other than what I've just read in the intro, your official bio?
Well, I guess the thing is that I started an online business thinking that I was being really smart because it'd be a great way to hide kind of thing. I could do things in my own time and in my own way. But I kind of discovered that being online is more out there than I've ever been in my whole life. And because if you want to be successful in this business, you've just got to be known. You can't just, do it from the luxury of your home office. And, the door doesn't knock or the phone doesn't ring unless you get out there and people know about you. And I guess for years I ran a counselling practice, and it was a small practice and I was really happy with it, and I actually never had to do any marketing because in the counselling business, I don't know, I've got rooms in the city, so I see people in the city. I've rented the same space for, I don't know, it must be coming on to 10 years or something. I really love my space. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, the phone would just ring. I had enough networks with general practitioners I sent out 50 letters to general practitioners like doctors in the area, mm-hmm. and that was in 2001, and it took a while to get started, but and then it just grew from there, and then I never had to do any marketing. It was just lucky, I guess. But then switching into coaching, I discovered that actually no one knows that I do coaching, and I needed to get out there a bit more if I wanted to be serious about business.
Right.
So I had to force myself.
So it was a big switch from, having your little practice locally to actually going online. And it's funny because often we hear, the online world is great for introverts because you don't have to do the local networking as much, or that's not your only place to be seen. But you're saying, well, it's even online, it's you're out there and you're vulnerable, and you have to make sure that people know you.
Yes, and then you have to think carefully, well, what do I want to be known about me? And what am I comfortable saying? And I'm surprisingly comfortable about saying a lot. But it took me a long, like when I first started online, I didn't have a Facebook account. I probably had a LinkedIn profile, but I don't remember. I certainly didn't have Twitter, and I'm not on Instagram or whatever those other ones are. See, I don't even know their names. I'm not big on social media, and it's something I've been avoiding learning, but knowing, like, I really have to get over it. But I've had to be more out there than I've ever had to be out there.
Yeah. And your big thing is really those virtual summits, right? That's how we kind of met when you were running this big summit. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, today is day one of the promotion for my next one, Crack the Leadership Code. It's starting in July. And the first time I did it, I was terrified. Like, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was contacting these people I didn't know, like complete strangers like you. Mm-hmm. And I'd write you an email and I'd think, oh my God, I can't believe I just sent this complete stranger an email asking them to do something for me, because I'm pretty, I was used to just sitting back and waiting for someone to ask me for something, not me having to go out and ask. So it's such a turnaround. And I found, people are surprisingly nice and generous. And and then I get to learn from everyone I speak to. The truth is I do get to do it from the comfort of my living room, well, not my living room actually, my home office. I could do it in my living room, and in my pajamas if I want to. And sometimes because of the time zones, we had an issue today, but I've had to do some once at 6 a.m. in the morning. I just really not my best. That's a little early for me. I can do 6:30. Somehow 6 is just a killer, but I can do it from the luxury of wherever I am, whenever I want. And no one could see that I was in my PJs.
So I guess once you had the interviews, you were fine, but it's that whole part of asking, selling yourself in a way, like asking for help, asking to, do you want to participate? And, do you want to speak to me for 30 minutes and give your time? That kind of thing. That was hard.
Yeah. Yes, and also would you help promote it? That was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And then once it went out into the world, it was like, oh my gosh, thousands of people signed up. Last time it went to over 90 countries. I couldn't believe it. And it's out there. Wow. And then you get these emails come in from complete strangers. Lucky they're just emails. And you would, and I would start, I would email back so I could handle that. It wasn't like it was so overwhelming that I couldn't handle it. And they were generally either, can you help me with this tech problem, which was usually about their browser, and then the other issue was, or their workplaces, firewall or whatever they have, and or else it was complimentary. So it was actually really a pleasure. It made me much more confident, which was really great.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's true. You do really put yourself out there because, you probably what was going through your head was like, what if it doesn't work? What if, people don't like it? What if, so many what ifs, right?
So many what ifs. And every time it's an unknown, but it doesn't scare me like it used to. Uh-huh. And, and I'm okay now about reaching out and asking for people to participate and just being pragmatic about it. It's like, it's business.
Yeah.
Let's get on with it. It can be fun as well. And in fact, it's been way more fun than I expected. But still, it's fun. And the reason I was really grateful for the rest was one of the someone else I met online, they were actually in Melbourne today, and I had a coffee with them. And so that was an extra thing that I don't normally do. And so that was I was excited, but I was also tiring. And I had a couple of, client meetings this morning. And so that's it was new kind of work, and if it's not predictable and within my own what I'm used to, like ongoing clients, which I normally have, then it takes so much more energy for me. So that's why I need more downtime for anything new, especially.
Yeah, so even if it's online, it still takes your energy because you're putting so much into the project that you just need to recharge somehow. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk. So these virtual summits, maybe you can explain a bit how they work, and then from there go into your different revenue streams. How does that virtual summit create revenue for you, and how else are you generating revenue?
Sure. Well, the virtual summits, people have to opt in with their email address, and then they get to listen into, it's free to opt in and listen to the summits. And like Crack the Leadership Code, it's around a whole lot of areas relating to having doing well at work and being a better leader. And so once that's over, and what I then do is I would invite them to a call with me and invite them to, like, sometimes people reach out and say, can I speak to you? I want to work with you, based on the summits, which has been unbelievable. So I've had I have 4 ways I earn money. One is like private coaching, one-on-one coaching, which I do either on Skype or in person, because I have clients around Australia as well as in America. Mm-hmm. So, and I have them on agreements, like I have 12-month agreements with them. I've tried 6 months. It's just too short. And the majority, I did start with 6 months, and most of them renewed because it really is too short to make significant change, because frankly, change in any personal development is hard and it takes time. And also, you can't do it by yourself. I interviewed Marshall Goldsmith as part of the current summit. He's considered the top leadership thinker in the world, and so I was so excited to speak to him. And he actually pays someone to call him daily with questions he's asked this person to ask him. Like he says, call me up and tell me the questions I've told you to ask me.
Oh, wow.
It's really fun. Yeah, I know, but it keeps him on track. It's questions like, did I do my best today to be nice to my family, whatever it is that he values. And so that's why I have people on 12-month agreements. I also do have these things I call leadership power shots, and I don't do them very often. There's like what people call a mini VIP or a half VIP day, so it might be like, usually we'd meet for a couple of hours, then have a follow-up. There's some pre-work, then we'd meet, and then there's a follow-up. But normally what I do for those is I made them up because I offered it as part of a charity auction. So I provide them to, this is the second year I've done it now, for the Human Rights Law Commission here in Australia, and also the Breast Cancer Network in Australia. And I've just offered it. That they asked me would I do it again this year, and I said of course I would. And because I've actually got a client out of that, so it's actually worth it to me, and I also feel good about it. So that's kind of a nice thing to do. And that gets me out there as well without having to go out there, and because it raises my profile in those areas. So it's free. I just see it as marketing, but also really nice one.
Doing something good as well,
Yeah. And I've just started running these online group programs. So I've got one's halfway through now. I've got another one starting in a few months called Crack the Leadership Code Group Coaching Academy, and that's an online group coaching program. So that's it's been fantastic, actually. I sort of teach some content, like some ideas that people can do in practice, and then so we'll have a theme for each month. So this year's theme was how to be more inspirational as a leader, and so I gave them some very practical things they can do to tweak and try out at work, and they've found, and one of them, there's a couple of things that have really resonated with them. One, the first month was about leadership styles, and so people didn't realise it's actually fine to have different leadership styles, and it's actually normal to be different in different situations, and it's about using the best one. So that actually transformed people's understanding of themselves and made them much more confident as leaders. And one of them's even had been so successful with it. She said that she's had someone come and ask if she can now be their line manager because they can see what a much better leader she is.
Wow!
So
I know, really,
it was super success. Yeah. And the other thing that's worked with a couple is is someone a friend or a foe, and how we shift between friend and foe. It's a continuum. You're not either or. Well, you'll be more than one or the other, but it's a matter of accepting that it's not going to stay static. It actually changes the relationships, and that's actually been liberating for some of the people in the group as well, to actually just even realise that and not get so disillusioned or disappointed when things aren't so rosy, and starting to think about why that might be going on and what they want to do about it. So they found that really helped. So it's been very practical. That's the sort of stuff we do in the group. So it's stuff that they can apply in their relationships and interactions at work that day after the calls. The other thing I do is I do organisational consulting. which is just if someone rings up and said, can you do this? And I'll think, can I yes or can I no? And I'm actually currently doing a culture change program for a very small law firm here in Melbourne, which is because he's growing really fast. So it's really coming out of a sole practitioner model into a small business. And so he's getting things like position descriptions, career development plans, along with a change in it's really the owner's change in his thinking and actually seeing the business differently as a business, not just him. So it's quite a shift that's going through there. And so I charge for that, and so it's another form of income. It's irregular though, and I don't seek it out. It's just if it lands in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other one is I've got some legacy counselling clients that I've had because I changed into coaching, about 2 to 3 years ago now, and so I've still got some clients from then. So I've got 3 still. So they've hung in there with me for the long haul, and I actually love working with them, and they're still deriving benefit and getting better, and so it's actually a joy to work with them, and so I do that too.
Nice. Wow. So you got quite the mix of different things. Would you say that's fairly common for a psychologist in Australia? Because I know that in Switzerland that's very uncommon, I think.
No, I've had a terrible trouble throughout my life. I've got a portfolio career. I could never decide what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I just can't choose one thing. Yeah. So this works for me because I can do the mix. I've got those mix of skills and background because I worked in corporate before I ran my own before I did counselling. I worked in a community agency first and learnt some skills before I went out on my own. Yeah. But so it suits me. I'm unusual.
And I think it's nice that you get to work with people one-on-one and also have that group experience, because it's a totally different experience, isn't it? And not just groups, but online groups. So that's nice to have a mix of everything. Wonderful.
Well, I love it. It keeps me. It's interesting because I don't like too much stimulation, but I like a lot of variety.
Yes, I can tell.
Yeah.
Really nice. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about your introverted superpowers. What would you say is your biggest strength as an introverted entrepreneur?
Well, I am a great listener, and I think it's also honed from years as a therapist. Like, you have to be a great listener. Mm-hmm. I'm also highly sensitive, and I think that really helps with the empathy skills. And so I need that for what I do as well. So it's about being a great listener. But I know that when people sit with someone, they usually think about what they're saying and then think about what they would feel like. Whereas for me, I feel it first and think, why am I feeling that feeling? So this morning I was sitting with someone and I almost burst into tears, and I thought, but I'm not upset about anything. And then I realised she was upset. So you pick up, it's called transference. So I'm picking up their transference and then having to be skillful about, well, what do I do with that now? Should I say anything? Would that be constructive or not? So I'm a good listener and I'm highly sensitive. I think that helps. And it helps online as well, because if you're not actually in person with someone, you can sort of be in tune with someone more, and you really need that because you don't have the extra cues of someone being physically with you. Right. And the other thing is that I can work for hours and hours by myself in front of my computer and be really happy about it.
I'm laughing because I think that's just like every introvert kind of says that to me, and it's like, other people don't get that. How could you sit there by yourself all day long? I do look forward. I have a lunch date today, and I'm going out for lunch with a friend. I do look forward to those moments, but I don't miss a team at all. Or sometimes I do, but then I hear my husband talking about his team issues and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad to be alone. Yeah, so it's great. So you're just motivated by yourself, and you don't need any company.
No, I do miss being part of a team. I did really enjoy that in the workplace, but I do have virtual assistants. Yeah. So they're my team, and they are part-time, but I still think of them as my team.
Yeah, excellent. What about the sensitive part? Because I'm highly sensitive too, and sometimes I see it as a strength, but sometimes I also see it as a challenge, because I don't always want to be, so emotional or so showing my feelings. Does that happen to you too, or do you always see it as a strength?
Well, I've got better because of the work I do, or because I did about I think I must be up to my 17th or 18th year doing therapy kind of work. You learn how to manage your feelings and in the moment a little bit better, because I know that they're not, if I'm picking up the feelings from someone else, then I can manage that better because I can recognise it's not me. If it's me, I have no control whatsoever. Yeah. Well, if it's upset, if I'm angry, I'm a little bit better about it. But if I'm upset, I just burst into tears. Mm. The other thing is I tend to get really overstimulated easily, and it happened to me especially when I was at uni, like 17 or 18, when I first started university, and I had to go and have naps and to get my brain settled because I couldn't focus or think. I was so busy. Yeah. And so I thought I was totally weird until I realised that's actually a normal introverted thing to get overstimulated. So my naps are totally important. Yeah. And being able to, so it is a bit of an annoying because you need to have more rest. It means you can be, like, I would like to be able to go more, but I just get, my energy gets drained. Right. So I need a bit more rest, I think, than average. Right. I find that frustrating.
So that's one of your challenges, the energy management. But if you can take naps, because I can't, even if I wanted to, my brain just keeps going and I just can't sleep. So you manage to be able to calm down and actually take a nap.
Oh, I'm so exhausted by my busy brain that I go to sleep, and I haven't actually had a nap for a while. I've got better somehow at managing it, but I used to be able to go to sleep and I would wake up exactly an hour later. I could do this. I did this for about 20 years. It was extraordinary. Yeah. An hour. Clockwork. Wow. So I must have some internal clock going on there.
That's nice. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, take us to a moment in time now where you had this incredible aha, where you realized, oh, I get it now.
I think it was with me in terms of going online. The thing that when I first did my current website, not my first ever website, but my current website, which is when I went, I got myself a designer and I showed her some examples of websites I liked, and then she came back and showed me one which was going to have me with my photo hugely on the homepage, and like a really big big photo taking up most of above the fold, and it's actually what I agreed to, and I looked at it and I thought, and I kept on looking. It was like horrific. Like I'd look at it, like I approved it. I actually had photos done. I gave her the photos, and I just thought, oh my gosh, my hair's dreadful. The photo's too big. I don't look like Kate Moss. I'm not a supermodel, and it's like maybe that'll turn people off. And I was a bit self-conscious, but it was kind of like that quote by Eleanor Roosevelt where she says, "Do one thing that scares you every day." Yeah. That was like, I'd look at that photo and I go, oh, I've had more than my year of days by looking at the photo. I'd relive that horror like Groundhog Day. So now I kind of look at it and I think it's my image and it's not me. And I'm totally fine. The other thing I've done that's helped me was someone said to me, well, you're actually a marketer, you've got to get your head around that first and foremost. And I thought, so now I tell myself I am a marketer. I'm a marketer. I'm not a, executive coach or a psychologist. I'm a marketer. And it's really helped me just get over it. Because there was something about putting myself out there my face out there so big, and not, it's a static website. It's not like a million people are looking at it, but it was still really out there for me, and it was very uncomfortable. Now I don't care, and I just know you have to. But at first it was extremely difficult.
So it was kind of like this. You stepped into this role of being a marketer, and it felt more okay because you didn't think, oh, this is me, but this is me as the marketer, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess then that's fine because that's my job. I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right, and you get used to it over time. Like it took me, it would have been about a year where I just look at it and go, I can't believe I've done that. And then after a while, it's like, well, now it's about 3 years down the track or 2.5 or something. It's like, no big deal. Yeah. It's I've just grown into it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It was like that when I first started doing videos. I was like, yes. Even today, I don't watch them again. It's not like I'm going to sit there and watch what I just recorded and put out into the internet. So but I get more comfortable, but I still don't want to see them again. But I just think of it as being part of what I do, marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's work. It's your work.
Exactly. Okay. Well, let's talk about some 3 golden nuggets, things that you want to share with your audience that you think have contributed to your success. The first one is a personal habit. What do you do on a regular basis?
Well, I have never not had a coach, or a supervisor. When I first moved into counselling, like I hadn't worked as a, one of the things you have to do is you have a supervisor who you take your client material there. So you say, I saw this client, you describe what happened, you describe what they just said and what you said, and then you think it through what could have been more useful or what would be more useful in future. And so for the first 10 years of my own counselling practice, when I set up on my own, I actually got myself a supervisor who's a psychoanalyst. And while I wasn't on the couch, that's how she normally saw people, but I would go there and I used to see her every week. So every week for 10 years, I saw her as my supervisor. And so I can't tell you how she made me as good as I am today. I would not be as good without her. You learn so much. And now I always have a coach. Like I've got both a supervisor for my client work, and I also have a coach to help me with business. And you just always got to get the support, and you're deluded if you think you can do it all on your own. And look, maybe you could, but it'll take you a lifetime when it doesn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it took me 5 years to finally get to that. And, I don't know if it has to do with being an introvert, but a lot of introverts I talk to, they find it really difficult to ask for help. And they think, I can do this by myself. And no, you can't. So, yeah, it's nice to hear this from you as well, because obviously we think, oh, she's a psychologist. Well, she knows everything. Why would she need a coach? So it's good to hear that from you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorite things to do is learn something new. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's always more to learn, even if you already do know a lot.
Yeah, yeah. What about an internet resource that you use that you could share with our listeners?
I've actually thought about this. I've got 2. Can I share 2?
Yes, please.
So one of them is Slack. I use Slack with my virtual assistant, and I like how they divide all your projects up into channels so you can keep everything organised. Because I've tried other project management software, and for some reason I just like this one, at least for now, and so that's good. And the other thing is not quite related, but it's kind of good for the frazzled person in me. There's this woman here in Australia who's got this, Pauline McKinnon, she's got this stillness meditation, and it's for when you're frazzled. And what I like about it, I've tried different meditations and they don't work for me because by the time I get around to them, I'm too agitated to settle down. But there's something about this one that appealed. So she says you don't have to do anything at all but be still, and for some reason it worked for me. And so if I don't have time for an hour's nap, I sometimes listen to this and it helps me slow down, which I really love.
Wonderful. So what's the name of the person again?
Pauline McKinnon. It's called Stillness Meditation. I can actually give you a link if you like to a free one that she put on our national broadcaster here.
Yes. We'll put that in the show notes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they can just get it
after.
Mm-hmm. I will.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, meditation is such an important topic, but it's true that it's not easy, and I think you just have to find something that works for you. I'm kind of experimenting with it as well, and last year I said, no, it's not going to work for me. I'm way too, my mind just doesn't calm down. And so I started with this kind of, I guess it's a art in some way. Yeah. So it's called Zen Tango. And it's these tiny little tiles basically where it's kind of like doodling, but it really takes your attention because obviously it's like small little patterns and you have to be really careful to not screw up. And so that has worked for me. And
is that like a coloring book?
It's similar to a coloring book, except that you make your own patterns. So you don't just color in, but you make the patterns your own. And but it's very small, so usually takes me between 20 and 45 minutes, depending on how much details I put into it. So that I found out, because it also goes with my creative needs that I recently, decided that I want to pay more attention to, or just attribute some more time to. So yeah, I like those.
Like I like the sound of that.
Yeah, look it up. It's called Centangle.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What about the book that you read that you would recommend to the Introvert Biz Growth audience, and why?
I've got 3. I couldn't choose. Well, one of them is for people who are coaches. I don't know how many of people in your audience.
I'm sure there's lots of coaches. Mm-hmm.
So this is a book from the counselling world that I found incredibly helpful, and it's not on the standard university list or anything, but my analyst supervisor gave it to me, pointed it to me. It's by Patrick Casement, and it's called Learning from the Patient. And what he talks about learning from our mistakes and failures and things like, so when someone attacks you for saying the wrong thing or misunderstanding, which sometimes they do, your job is to neither collapse nor retaliate. And that I found so incredibly helpful. And when the first time I had a client get really angry with me, which is actually a really good sign if they're safe enough to be really angry with you. But so so he talks about all the mistakes he made and what he learnt from them. And it's such a joy to read, and it gives you permission to be wherever you're at in terms of your learning process with that. So that's a really helpful book that most people don't talk about. So I would highly recommend it, especially if you feel like a failure, which we all are at times. Yeah. And the idea is to learn. And in terms of online, I think being online is all about good copy. And so I would recommend a book called Words That Sell by Richard Bayan to help you find the right words when you write. So sometimes I look at it and think it's a bit simplistic, but if you're trying to write a good headline, for example, for an email, it helps you just have a look through, and it might give you some ideas. So I think that's a good thing to try, or good thing to have. And another one that I found really helpful for myself also was Stephen Pressfield's Turning Pro, because the entrepreneurial life and online business growth is not an easy path, and at least it hasn't been. You come up against yourself every step of the way. Like for me, it was like putting my photo up online was just a nightmare moment, and then contacting all the experts for the tele summits I do was another oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this and I can barely do it. And it just reminds you to keep going and be professional about it. Right. And he's just a brilliant writer and talks about it in a really in an accessible way. Wonderful. And yeah, so I love all those books.
Excellent. Yeah, I will definitely put them in the links. I think I've read Words That Sell quite a few years ago, so I remember that. Yeah, obviously copywriting in terms of search engine optimization is so important nowadays, and what you mentioned as well, email copy. A boring headline, nobody's going to open your emails, and so you're just wasting your time. So very important. And then Turning Pro, totally agree. There's just too many entrepreneurs out there who are, I guess, not, or they're probably afraid to take that step. In what you said before, you need a team. I think that's part of Turning Pro, right? It's like people always say, I can't afford to have a team. Well, you cannot afford not to have a team. So you really need, in terms of Turning Pro, you need to invest in your business if you're gonna, make money from it. So yeah. Excellent.
And you don't have to. I'm just thinking with virtual assistants, one of mine is in the Philippines, and it's in terms of the exchange rate for us, or not even, just how much they charge, it's really affordable, and you only use the hours that you need. You can keep it pretty small to start, but it's just the shift into doing it all yourself, from doing it all yourself to getting support.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're coming to an end here, and I always like to ask what you're grateful for, either today or this week, this month.
Well, my thing that I think I'm most grateful for right now is my local cafe, because it's not very popular cafe, and because it's not run by the cool people and hipsters, and the food actually isn't very good, but the light itself is fantastic. The chairs are comfortable. The music they play I actually like, and it's not too loud. the staff are really friendly and there's free Wi-Fi as well. So I go there and I get a little social hit because I say hello to the staff and they remember me because I go there so often and they know my order and they bring it to me. And I get to be around people just a little bit. Like I don't even have to barely talk to anybody, but I'm in a social environment for a couple of hours. And I also walk there. So I get my exercise, I get a little bit of a social hit, and then I come home and I'm by myself again and it's all perfect. So I'm really grateful that it's close and it's actually not too popular but it's actually good.
So we won't say the name, otherwise all the Australian listeners will show up.
I know, it's such a terrible thing to say, but it's true.
Well, you'll let them know anyway that you mentioned them without telling their name.
No, I won't because I don't want them to listen.
Yeah, that's a nice thing because sometimes we are trying too hard to think, well, what am I grateful for? And so it's those little things, just to be able to go to that cafe and feel welcome and feel you like being yourself. That's great.
Yes, I do like it there.
Wonderful. All right. Well, this has been great. Thanks so much, Michelle, for taking the time to sit down with me. Sorry again for the time zone confusion, but I'm glad you could make it, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Oh, me too. And thank you so much for including me on this. I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed it too.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, bye.
Bye. You can find Michelle on her website at michellepizer.com.au or on Facebook, facebook.com/cracktheleadershipcode. Next time it'll be just me again. And I know I said that before and then it wasn't true because I switched things around a bit, but this time it really is going to be just me. And I'll be sharing my experience about the Rising Strong workshop by Brené Brown. So that's it for this episode on the Introvert Biz Growth podcast. Please come and download the 3 Golden Nuggets cheat sheet that Michelle shared with us today at sarahsanacroce.com/episode 7. And if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. It comes with an easy downloadable templates that you can just copy and paste into your emails when you get these requests on your time and you really feel like saying no, but it takes you ages to create and draft the email. I've just actually used another one 2 days ago where someone wanted to work with me, but I really just didn't think it was a great fit. So come and download that 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. And if you like this episode, please subscribe to this show on iTunes or Stitcher and tell your introverted friends about it. And I talk to you again in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies and pre-excitement is half the experience. Talk to you soon.